Coming up on Network Africa, Zimbabwe's president says his country's fight with the United Kingdom is over. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir rejects the opposition's call to step down. South Africa's president meets with officials of the Labour Ministry after Wednesday's nationwide protests. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker. It's looking like severe diplomatic ties between Zimbabwe and the United Kingdom has been mended. President Emmerson Mnangagwa says his country's decade-long quarrel with Britain is over. At a rally in Harare, he said that relations with the UK are tangibly better as he has received 3 envoys from Britain. He also made clear what motivated him to work on the relationship, saying Zimbabwe cannot continue living in isolation. For years, former President Robert Mugabe railed against Britain and its political leaders as they opposed his land reforms, his persecution of white farmers and his management of Zimbabwe's economy. Well, joining us now is Ambassador Joe Keshi, a former permanent secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Ambassador, for joining us. Now, this looks like good news for Zimbabwe, especially after the sore relationship or mixed feelings. What do you think?
I think it's a good. I think it's a good development, given the long solid relationship between Zimbabwe and the British government for a long time. You know, under Mugabe, when he seized the land from his distribution to his people, that created a lot of disruption and, of course, saw the relationship between the two countries. With a new regime, they should be expected, actually, but more especially because Zimbabwe needs investment, and they also probably need a lot of British assistance to be able to, for the success of the new regime and for the success of Zimbabwe itself.
Britain's relationship with Zimbabwe has appeared complex, a former imperial power and ex-colony. Why is this so?
Britain was a power, and in the course of the struggle for independence, the British played quite a number of roles that were not commendable. But at the end of it all, everything went well. They became independent. But then Mugabe went on to nationalize land, and it affected quite a number of British nationals. That was what led to not the break, but created problems in the relationship between the two countries.
What do you advise that Zimbabwe do to mend the broken relations so as to create vibrant trade and economic ties?
What Zimbabwe needs now, apart from good governance, is investment. And so what it just have to do is to create the atmosphere for people who want to invest. Zimbabwe is a relatively prosperous country, but as a result of policies pursued by President Mugabe, things went very bad for the country. And with a new regime, and that's not to say that the current regime members, are not should be exonerated because they were part and parcel of the Mugabe regime anyway. So what it needs to do now is to put in place a series of policies that would ensure good governance and that would enable investors, that would make Zimbabwe attractive to investors. And I have a strong feeling that if they make a promise to return back some of the lands that are not producing now back to the owners, that would also be very good for Zimbabwe. And it will help, improve relations with Britain, because some of those involved will definitely come back to take back their land and begin to,
Ambassador Joe Keshi, thank you for your time on Network Africa. Well, let's take you to the United Nations human rights chief, who has now been allowed to visit a region in Ethiopia that has been roiled by protests and unrest for the past 3 years. Zeid Ra'ad Al Hussein says he is happy with the permission granted, especially after the previous administration turned down his request last year. The visit by the UN High Commissioner comes 3 weeks after the Horn of Africa nation swore in a new Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, who pledged reforms in the wake of state repression and violence. Mr. Al Hussein met with released opposition politicians and civil society activists also in Oromia region, where he also visited. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is to meet with officials from the Labour Ministry to discuss the planned introduction of a national minimum wage. This comes a day after nationwide protests over the policy which he championed. Thousands of union members marched in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban and other cities on Wednesday to voice their opposition to the 20 rand an hour minimum wage, which they have described as starvation wages. Protesters called for the proposed hourly wage to be scrapped and replaced with a living wage of 12,500 rand a month. Staying with South Africa, popular brand company Tiger Brands, which faces 2 class action lawsuits over a listeria outbreak that has killed 180 people, says results from an independent laboratory confirmed the presence of the deadly bacteria in one of its food factories. The government, which has been criticized for taking too long to find the cause, previously linked the outbreak to a meat product known as polony made by the company. In March, Tiger Brands stated that in a batch of one of its products, the presence of the disease could not be confirmed. The company received a notice of 2 class action suits, with the total claim estimated at $34.10 million.